So if you've been keeping up with the news recently, you're probably aware that the PS5 just came out, and I just happened to be lucky enough to get my hands on one of them. And with all the amazing next-gen features, really the thing that I want to focus on the most with this is being able to play PS4 games like everyone's favorite Knack. This is a really good game, right? Everyone loves it, right? Right, guys? Have the box. I'm going to go ahead and go over it real quick. Obviously, the storage size on this thing is not amazing. The usable space is only 600 and something gigs. And so much of this marketing is about, wow, the superpowers of the SSD, which that game that I showed before, Knack, these PS4 games are still going to utilize to an extent, which is fantastic. But really, they're like, oh yeah, the adaptive triggers, all the extra audio tech we've been doing, they got the whole new controller setup, which again, PS4 games are going to be able to take advantage of that depending on developer support, and then stunning PS5 features like playing PS4 games, which is so good, easily one of the most exciting things, not because PS4 games are just inherently amazing or something. Look at Knack. People don't really like Knack that much, but Knack's fine, but that's not what I'm talking about. What I want to talk about is how games that didn't run amazingly, like Knack, can now run on the power of this next-gen system and run fine, and Knack even has options to take extra advantage of things in-game. And I'm just going to jump right into some gameplay footage of Infamous, not of Knack. I'll show you Knack later. So here we are at Infamous Second Son and not Knack, because honestly, I kind of threw in Knack in the intro as a joke. I don't really have a ton of experience playing through Knack, whereas I have a fair bit of experience playing through this game, so I figured I'd actually show off the one that I've, played around and be able to talk about. Now, whenever this game first came out, I don't know if it was literally a launch title, but it definitely came out very close to around the start of the PS4. So this is something that you get pretty early on, and for whatever reason, a lot of those titles were targeting higher resolutions and lower frame rates. I don't know why, but that was just kind of like a general philosophy for design that people were doing for the last generation of games. And I think that it actually, while at the time, I think that it was kind of a bad move, and I think people are definitely starting to move towards wanting to go for higher frame rates, I think that it actually aged well, because we've been able to go in and have options for this. So whenever this came to the PS4 Pro, and it very well could have been like this before, I know some games before the PS4 Pro had options, which is fantastic and something I love about the PS4, Xbox One generation. Look at this. This game, even on PS4 Pro, did not run at 60 FPS. So that is the reason why there is only a 30 FPS limit and unlimited. I think it ran at, unfortunately I don't have a PS4 Pro on hand, so I can't show you that, but I'm pretty sure it ran in the 40s. And would dip up and down depending on whatever. So it could be kind of juddery, it could be kind of jarring running through that. So a lot of people would play it at the 30 FPS limit and do a higher res. I've been told that this is 1800p checkerboarded to 2160p. I don't know if that's true. I couldn't find the 800p number anywhere else, but I did find that the game gets 4K with checkerboard rendering, which is basically, it's a rendering technique that the TLDR is that it's upscaled. It isn't playing at a native 4K res, but it still looks good. So the good thing about this combo, and this being what was going on with the PS4, and again, the unfortunate thing with the PS4 Pro is that it couldn't run it at this, but the good thing about having that is now automatically there are games, which this game, to my knowledge, does actually have a patch, so I don't know what all they had to tune or if they really even tuned anything. But for a lot of games, you should be able to automatically take advantage of the increased horsepower that's available on the PS5, and this game runs at a lock 60. At unlimited, it is hitting 60. You do not have to worry about that. Now, I guess a patch could be put into place to make this run at 120 or something, if it's even possible. for the game to run at that. I don't know. I don't know the tech behind this game, if that's something that you could realistically expect or not. I have literally no idea. I have absolutely no knowledge whether this title would be able to push that or not, but there certainly are games coming out this generation on console that are targeting 120 or have special modes for frame rate at least higher than 60 FPS. So that's something that could be really cool. Again, I wouldn't expect these backwards compatible games to be able to do that, but that is something that's kind of cool to think about. Now, oh man, hold on. Let me get out of here. Oh god, I haven't played this game in a minute. I'm just right at the beginning of the game. So I wouldn't really show any spoilers or anything, because there are games that I've been playing through that I never even played on this PS4 that I'm playing on PS5 for the first time. So I'm trying to not spoil anything for people that are in the same boat as me. But anyway, the TLDR with just backwards compat in general, but specifically Infamous, and again, I will go back to this menu, is that the best way to play it before, or really your only options, was 30 FPS at a higher res or unlimited at better frame rate mode, because the PS4 Pro really isn't that big of a step up compared to the PS4. But on the PS5, you automatically scale up. So these modes that were in these games that made it harder to run but look prettier, now just make it look prettier, and it runs at a fine resolution and frame rate, which is fantastic. Such a good combo. I am so excited to see this with other titles. And I haven't personally messed with Knack, but I am under the impression that Knack does actually have some settings in game that you're going to be able to tweak with and kind of like get your frame rate and your resolution set up real well. So I'm actually going to go ahead and swap over to that in a minute and see how that goes, because that's another title that came out very, very early into the system's life that I want to look at and see how much we can do with that. Also, it's a game that I heard had frame rate issues even on the PS4 Pro. So being able to kind of fix some of those things that you definitely wouldn't be able to fix, especially in a console game, that is the most exciting thing to me. If it's a PC, you look at insert Assassin's Creed game, for example, like take a Ubisoft game that does not run well at launch, and then, you know, a few years later, better hardware comes out and it runs amazingly and it's a great time. And you just have not had the luxury to be able to do that with console games ever, really. And now this tech's coming around to where we can just backwards compat, run some of these games and make them even better than before. And it's straight up, it's just objectively better. Like, it's not like I'm taking an emulator to a PS2 game and, like, you know, ruining some of the art style or something like that, or a PS1 where you have to entirely reimagine everything. It's like, this game knew what it wanted and didn't have the horsepower to do it, and now we have the ability to do that, and hopefully we see that in a bunch of other games. I don't know how crazy you have to go with patches for some of these, and I will speak more on that in a minute, but let me go ahead and just swap over to Knack right now. Now, unfortunately, I don't know the technical specs behind this, but for Knack, before you even start the game, you get two options that pop up. It says there are two play modes available for this game. You have the high resolution mode, which features very high resolution graphics, or high frame rate mode, which features a higher frame rate and still 1080p graphics. So which mode do we want to play in? We of course want to play in the higher resolution mode, since this is a PS4 game, and we're going to be able to be pushing this very hard. Now, I'm probably going to go ahead and just skip through this game a little bit so I can, like, actually show it off. Alright, I'm going to be straight up with you. This game looks stupid good. Now, unfortunately, you can't really what I wanted to show off, so I'm not going to be very long on Knack. Really, what I wanted to show off was changing settings in-game, but as you saw, it asks you before you even launch the game, which I get. That normally on PC, if you do some major changes, you're going to have to restart your game anyway, so I understand why it would ask beforehand, but it would have been cool to do some side-by-side without me having to do a bunch of stuff. So obviously this, well, I guess probably it's not obvious. I haven't played this before. I don't think ever. I've owned this game, I think twice, just because it's always been such a, like, cheap game, and it looks so good. I'm so surprised. I bought this game again. I bought it used on PS4, of course. I went to the, I picked up 2 games whenever I went to the little local game store. I got Bloodborne, which I am absolutely going to talk about in this video. And I went and I picked up Knack, and he's like, oh, look, one of the best games on the PS4. And then Knack. And I'm like, dude, this game has a sequel. Like, people like this game. I don't know why people like hate on this game. I actually really don't understand it. Again, I haven't played it, but they made a sequel. Like, I haven't really heard that the general opinion on this game is that it's just awful or anything. Like, this seems fairly fun. I've kind of gotten the controls down a little bit. Oh, okay, you know what? I don't like this game anymore. I got hurt. We're going to a different game. The TLDR on this is that it looks pretty, and this is running really well. I have not seen any frame hitching or anything strange going on with this in the slightest, which is really just what I wanted to test real quick. Obviously, this probably isn't the most intensive part of the game, but dude, let's be real. I'm not going to play this for a few hours just to verify that the PS5 is faster than the PS4. You probably understand that. So let's go on to a different title. So here we are at Central Yarnum. This is Bloodborne. This is one of my favorite games that came out in the PS4 ever. A very early title, and something that actually got some help from the PS4 Pro, but as you can probably guess from a lot of the PS4 Pro titles, it really didn't help that much. And unfortunately, this game is still running at a less than ideal frame rate. It still does not run at 60. And if we want to go to our system, as you can see, all of our options right here, we can toggle on HUD. Wow, that's really cool. Brightness, network. Yeah, none of this is for settings. We do not have any support for it, and I don't see any support being added in the near future. I have no idea. I would absolutely love to be proved wrong, but to my knowledge, this game is just not going to be doing fantastic. And that's the unfortunate truth, is a lot of these games, even if they had something to do with the PS4 Pro, are probably just not going to be getting a lot of special treatment. Really, the way to get your favorite games on PS4 playing better on PS5 is if they already have some sort of system in place, like the previous 2 titles that we talked about, that already gave you options of, oh my god, getting absolutely destroyed, what am I doing? Give you options that pertain to the graphical settings and things of that nature. I have not played this game in a minute, by the way, so I'm like, I forgot the controls. I was like, is triangle the one I used to heal? Yeah, but anyway, what I was saying is this game doesn't have anything, to my knowledge, that you can use to just go right off the bat and tweak with settings. And unfortunately, what that means is you are not really going to be able to get much of a better experience at all on PS5, other than the fact that you are playing it on PS5. To my knowledge, it isn't using anything with the adaptive triggers, or probably nothing with the 3D sound, whatever that they have advertised on the box. Nothing of that sort, unfortunately. A patch could change that in the future. For example, the next game I'm going to show is going to be Spider-Man Remastered, and that actually does have a ton of features added to it, which is fantastic, and like the over-the-top way to do a PS4 backwards compatibility patch. Whereas I would say Knack and Infamous Second Son is more of a like chill, but also super good way to do it, is just having extra flexibility in the settings. Now, the really sad thing about Bloodborne running like this is there's actually fan patches, and that makes it sound as though it's something easy to do. It's absolutely not something easy to do. I'll try to pull up footage right here of me going through what exactly I'm talking about and who made it. But essentially what they've done is on the PS4 Pro, they have it running at, I believe, 720p, and because of that, it allows the game to run at 60 FPS, because the PS4 Pro just is not, it's just straight up not able to handle running at anything better than that if you want to have a high frame rate, which I absolutely would recommend playing at a high frame rate for any of the Soul-like games. So if you don't have, I think DS3 maybe has, I don't know any of the other FromSoft games on console, how the backwards compatibility is. I don't have DS3 or anything like that on hand, but PC, you know, if you want to check those out, if you want to check out some of the mods, dude, even I have Demon Souls. I'm not going to talk about that in that video, but even there's the PS3 emulator on PC. This is actually a video I've done before. You can play 4K 60 FPS. There's a 60 FPS patch. It is amazing. I haven't gone into Demon Souls a lot. Honestly, I'm pretty surprised with the quality of Demon Souls on PS5. But again, that's for another video, okay? I'm not going to be talking about that right now. What I do want to go ahead and jump over to is a video of me crying about FromSoft never going to patch this game, and no, I'm just kidding. I am going to jump over to Spider-Man. So here we are at Spider-Man Remastered. This is absolutely the ideal scenario. You have a PS4 title that came out towards the end of the lifespan of the PS4, relatively speaking, or relatively close to the PS5. So they're able to take this existing game, and they are able to put a bunch of nice little features into it, okay? And like, you could probably immediately tell that the frame rate looks pretty good, and there's a few options that you can do, and you can swap them in game as well. I believe it's under visual. Yeah, so look at this. I have it on performance. This is the way that I've been liking to play it. Again, this did come out towards the end of the PS4. I believe this came out in 2018. That's what the copyright at least says. So you aren't able to get quite as crazy of the settings as some of the other games, but that's because they're already like pretty set up functionally compared to those. Like, for example, Infamous, it's like, oh yeah, you can do a frame rate mode or a resolution mode, and the resolution already runs at the super good frame rate, whereas these settings actually like make sense. Like whenever it says you play it at 30, that's because it's built for this, and you're actually picking between these settings. Like they play as they read, whereas in Infamous, it's like there's absolutely no reason to play in FPS mode because the resolution runs as high as the FPS mode would have ran on PS4. But on here, it's a different story. So we have performance, and I keep toggling back and forth, sorry. Performance is 60 FPS, and it does not have things like enhanced lighting. It doesn't have ray tracing. But look, it has temporal techniques that provide a 4K picture from a base resolution, a lower one. So it probably uses checkerboard rendering or something of that nature. And then you have the super awesome, nice one, which, and by that I mean there's a bunch of eye candy extras that probably wouldn't have been available on the PS4 because hardware-based ray tracing was just not a thing. So look, 30 FPS with graphical features like ray tracing, enhanced lighting, and additional VFX. So this provides an extra high quality picture from a 4K resolution base. And this is of course the default because they want to show off all this sick stuff. I am going to go ahead and redo from the checkpoint. Sorry, you actually do have to redo from the checkpoint. So here we are, we have a ray tracing. This is at 30. This actually feels kind of weird doing 30. What are these people doing up here? Getting they all just fell over. Why? What did I do? I guess I just scared them. But yeah, this is like the ideal scenario, I think. Okay, I just cut away from that because I didn't want to spoil anything. I'm not very far into the game, so I don't think it would have been a huge deal if that went, if you heard the dialogue. But, you know, I'm just going to play it safe. I don't really want this game. Like, I'm playing through this for the first time. So I don't really want a ton of stuff to be spoiled for me, and I can totally understand if that is your motto as well. I mean, it's not a big deal if I get spoiled accidentally. Please no one in the comments intentionally ruin the game for me, but it wouldn't actually be that big of a deal. Again, I wouldn't ruin it. I shouldn't say ruin it, but anyway, this is not at all what I came to talk about. I wanted to talk about, this is ideally how you do the settings for a PS4 remaster or the backwards compatibility patch, is they added new things that the PS5 takes advantage of. Now, unfortunately, I can't show you it, but the L2 and R2 on the PS4 Pro, or on the PS4 Pro, are normal. On the PS5, they have special like haptic feedback. They have weight to them. And this title actually goes ahead and takes advantage of doing that. And there's a few different ones. I believe some of the Call of Duties have actually put in patches to go ahead and take advantage of that. And there's just, this is such a cool landscape that not only Sony, like, if anything, I think Microsoft's probably done a better job of it because they have support for an even wider variety. I think you can play original Xbox games on the Xbox One X, so definitely no flame towards Microsoft in this regard or anything, but I just have the PS5 on hand and I don't have an Xbox One X, so I'm showing it off on this. And it's so awesome to see some of these games running way better and looking so much better than they ever did. And I am so excited to see what devs are going to come out and support stuff like this in the future. Like, I'm wondering, I feel like all these patches that have come out, and the system's only been out for a little bit, so obviously it's not as though like people have been spending a stupid amount of time doing these things, but I do really want to see some fans kind of very politely ask some of their favorite devs, hey, can you make this game, Bloodborne? Can you go ahead and have the Bloodborne? Hello, Mr. Bloodborne. No, FromSoft, could you maybe make it where this game runs at 60 FPS? It certainly has the power to do that. And obviously, varying game to game or engine to engine, you're going to have very different circumstances to be able to either just flip it like a switch if you were doing something like PC, or some of them very well just may not have engines that are based around being able to even do that to begin with. So some of them are going to be a lot more difficult to be able to pull off. Like FromSoft, I believe, for Demon Souls, people had to like do a bunch of really special patchwork to be able to get it to run at the 60 FPS that people have done a patch for. So getting stuff like that would be fantastic, and it would also be fantastic if I didn't get shot. Now, that is really just going to be it. That's all I have to say. I'm just kind of rambling on at this point. Let me go ahead and throw this trash over here. Backwards compatibility is amazing, and I hope more people come out and do some patches for it. I hope that there are more games that I find out, oh, they had some special mode on PS4 Pro, and I can just go ahead and utilize this without the developer having to even do anything. And I really hope PS5 titles, like all of them, have two different modes for high FPS or higher resolution. I know there's a lot more titles coming out now that have a bunch of enhancements. One I really want to look at is Devil May Cry 5. That looks amazing. Plus, playing the original Devil May Cry 5, such a great time. Definitely one of my favorite games of that generation. And yeah, if you have any specific titles you want me to look at, by all means, let me know in the comments. I would love to. And if you have any recommendations for titles that you actually know of that are super good to do, please let me know that as well. I would make a billion follow-up videos. I mean, really, dude, I'm fine with doing this for a while, assuming that people are actually like putting out patches. Like, one I would love to see that I think would be pretty easy is The Last Guardian, for example. The Last Guardian, by default, like without any patches, it runs better than the patched version. So I really hope they can just like, I don't know, kind of copy and paste. Obviously, I'm dumbing this down, but you know, take some of the things in the code that didn't limit the game from the original base game and remove that from the patch, and it should be relatively easy. Nothing with games is easy, but that should be relatively easy. I really hope to see that. That's what's immediately on my radar. And let me know what's on your radar. And that's it. That's the video. That's what. Stop watching. I'm done.